morning, afternoon, evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm George Moss again here at allpointstv.com. Want to also welcome the audience over there at WFOV, and that's 92.1, the great radio station that is heralded by Mr. Paul Herring and brought on by Odyssey House, and they're doing a very good job over there as always, and we're very glad to be a partner with them. They're doing some wonderful broadcasting, some of the best programming here in the city of Flint. I was at the radio station last Friday with some very good friends of mine, and I want to also mention their program. They come on at 5 o'clock on Fridays, and again they air 11 o'clock on Saturdays. And that's the program. Victor, you and Candace are doing a wonderful job over there, and I want to commend you for the job that you're doing. And your program, Whose Opinion Is It Anyway, is just setting a tone. I'm not in competition with you because I know I can't compete with the kind of things you all are doing. Your program is outstanding. And I just want to thank you for allowing us here at allpointstv.com to be a part of what you're doing. And Mr. Paul Herring, you are the visionary in the city of Flint. I don't care what you say about that. You are doing some things that are unheralded by the standards, but you're doing some things above the pale, and I want to definitely commend you.
Commend us also for
the fine job you're doing.
The new opening and close that you're seeing today. He also
and I want to mention that also, John. You notice that we had a new beginning. Paul Herring was telling me this past Friday that I'm sitting there in conversation with everybody in the studio before we come on. All I'm doing is sitting here waiting for the music to stop. And it was his idea to put something up there that would be more of an intro to the program. And so what you saw today was something different, entertaining and fresh. And so that's a new addition to the program. We'll be doing that for a while until we find some other way to maybe do it a different way somewhere down the road. By the way,
we also like to encourage people who are interested in the Flint area about what's going on here in Flint to check out Flint Talk. It's been a posting forum since 2003, and they are a they got so much information on there. A couple of times we were interviewed with reporters about the water crisis, and they said they got so much information from there because, you know, it's archived, and you can go back for several years to check it out. And they have a woman there, a person who posts as Untangling Webs, and she does an amazing job of research of like all the personalities and stuff like that, or the people around the water crisis and all the information going on in Flint. So check out Flint Talk, you know, the posting forum.
Flint Talk Radio, John?
Flint Talk Radio. Just Flint Talk. Just Flint Talk. Just Flint Talk.
Just Flint Talk.
Yeah, just Flint Talk.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that, and I'll be checking that out as well. I want to bring you back to our discussion from last week and play off of that at the beginning of the program, and I want to segment into another conversation, but I want to go back to what we covered and what you learned last week. I was saying that I don't think a lot of people understand the impeachment process, and I read these articles that come out and just verifies what I said here. A lot of people are just, you know, make a mockery of our Constitution. We have a great document, and we're dismissing the claims made in it because I don't think very many people read it, and then those who are telling us, those that supposedly have read it, are telling us things that are not really, to be honest with you, it's inaccurate information that they're giving out. So they're not really telling us the truth about the document, and one aspect of that is the impeachment process. Next week, I'm going to get into something else that has been misapplied, and that is what is meant by natural-born citizen. That is in Article 2, Section 1, Clause 5, where it says, in order to be president of the United States, you must be a natural-born citizen. And a lot of people are saying that is not defined in the Constitution. And I'm going to prove that that's not true either, that it is. They're saying that it's not made clear in the Constitution. You know, I said last week, and I'll say it again this week, we have a lot of, there's a certain level of illiteracy in this country. Surely the Constitution doesn't come out and say, what we mean by natural-born citizen is, and they give you a definition of the term. But in terms of what a natural born citizen is, it is in the Constitution, and it is in Article 2, Section 1, Clause 5, if you can read it. The section that says that the requirements to be president of the United States is that you must have these qualifications. You must be a natural born citizen. You must be 35 years of age, and you must have been in the United States for a period of 14 years. Now, I know you're going to go and read that, and you're going to say, well, I don't see where the definition of the term is found there. And I'll wait until next week to show you how to read that, because you have to take it in the context of the other information that's found there as well. But I'm going to show you that if you can understand what's being said here, then you can understand that natural born citizen is in fact, there is a definition of it through the way in which it is contextualized. But I'm not saying that it says this is the definition. You got to draw the same conclusion that I drew last week when I was talking about whether or not a member of the House of Representatives or a member of the Senate can be impeached. And I was showing you that they are excluded from impeachment because they're not civil officers of the United States. And the Constitution says in Article 2, Section 4, that the President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be, that they are commanded to be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, and other high crimes and misdemeanors. So you might say then that it doesn't say that members of the House and Senate are not civil officers of the United States. And it does not say that in so many words, but it does, if you understand how to read it, then you can conclude on your own that they are excluded from being from that language in Article 2, Section 4, because it does make it clear that they're not civil officers of the United States. You know, you have to assume a couple of things that people know when they come to the Constitution. That is that we have a two-tiered level of government in this country. We have, in fact, we have two levels of citizenship in this country. We have national citizenship. We are citizens of the United States. And we are also citizens of the state in which we reside. So I'm a citizen of the United States. I'm also a citizen of the state of Michigan. And I have been here for whatever number of years I've been here. But I now am a resident of this state. And so I'm a citizen of the state of Michigan. That's the state level. And then on the federal level, I am a citizen of the United States. So the two levels, given the fact that we have a federal structure in place, and federal just means the powers are divided between the federal government and the state government. And if you look in Amendment 10, you'll see where it says that all powers that are not delegated to the states and not forbidden, that is not delegated to the federal government nor forbidden to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people therein. So that is to say that all powers that are not delegated to the federal government are powers, therefore, that are held by the states. That's the meaning of that particular language in Amendment 10. So the structure is a federal structure, and there's levels of authority assigned to the federal government. That's in Article 1, Section 8, where you have the enumeration of powers. So therefore, the powers are delegated to the federal government. And those powers that are not delegated, Alexander Hamilton talking to you about that posthumously, those powers that are not delegated are not implied if they're not expressed. If they're not expressed, they're not implied. Okay, so so you have to be able to read it. And Alexander Hamilton and some of the others were trying to usher in some things to say that it was saying things it's not saying. And Alexander Hamilton, created that nonsense about there are both explicit powers and there are implicit powers, and that the implicit can be conjured up by reading the explicit, and that which is not stated that's the explicit aspect, then what's implied by the explicit language is also part of the Constitution, as if persons can say explicitly what's implicitly meant by the language, and so on. It's a way of expanding the context of the Constitution and taking us off the meaning of it. I'm going to show that next week when I show you, as I'm going to show that there is no forbearance, no confusion about who is eligible to run for president of the United States. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of these persons that ran in 2016 initially, and some of them that went very deeply into the primary, I'm going to show you very clearly in the Constitution, they're not qualified. They were not qualified to run. And this way of finessing the document and going out of the contextual aspects of it and what it states and what it makes clear, this lack of clarity is in their own heads, not in the language. And I'm going to prove that next week, and we're going to get to the bottom of what it means. Let me start. Let me end up with what we talked about last week, and I want to read an article, not the article. Read the headline of the article that talks about impeachment. I want you to listen to this very carefully. This is from the Hill newspaper. It says a majority in poll want Trump impeached or censored. Now you can read that headline, majority in poll want Trump impeached or censored, where the article is the article title is saying that taking a poll of the American people, a majority of the people want Trump impeached or they want the president censored. You know, you read this and maybe you don't get your hair on the edge and you don't have the hair standing up on your arm and so on. But this is really ridiculous. Because what the assumption is here is that the impeachment process does not lend itself to censorship. That is to say that the assumption that is made here is the same assumption that Alan Dershowitz makes. And that is the assumption that the impeachment process is what you find in Article 2, Section 4, where a crime, where it says the president, vice president, all civil officers of the United States should be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, and other high crimes and misdemeanors. And so this article makes the same assumption that Alan Dershowitz makes, that impeachment is a process of removal. I'm going to prove that's not true based on the Constitution as well. But when I read an article titled like that, majority in poll want Trump impeached or censored, you know, I can see that this is confusion, and they don't understand the impeachment process. In other words, they don't understand that the impeachment process could be used for censuring the president. But they got this idea that when you impeach, then the process is one of removal, and that's not true. But that's Alan Dershowitz' idea, because Alan Dershowitz does not understand the Constitution. And I'll read something else about him later on to show you that's true, not just in this area, but also another area where he made some astounding comments, which is quite appalling for a man who is on TV all the time. TV all the time. And they're always acting like they got to take this guy's notes. And he's supposed to be such a scholar on the Constitution. And if Alan Dershowitz speaks, then they think that that's the bottom line, and nobody else can say anything behind what he says. So we get articles like this: majority in poll want Trump impeached or censored, not realizing that the impeachment process can be a point of censorship. Let me read you something that I think it might be in this article right here. Let me read this right here to you. This is another aspect of the insanity of Alan Dershowitz. This one is titled "Rosenstein Impeachment Short-Sighted and stupid. These are the words used by the Harvard professor emeritus, Alan Dershowitz. It says, Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz, the author of The Case Against Impeaching Trump, Thursday made a case against impeaching Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, called the move stupid and short-sighted, and accusing House representatives of giving Democrats, quote, a present they can use against President Donald Trump. It is, I'm quoting Alan Dershowitz here, it is the most short-sighted and I have to say stupid thing I have heard in a long time, Dershowitz told Fox News, America's newsroom. Quote, here we have a present to the Democrats who are trying to impeach Trump, and if they gain the House of Representatives, they will almost certainly do so. The big issue, said Dershowitz, is whether a president or anyone else being impeached, if they are not charged, can they be impeached if they're not charged with specific crimes just because you disagree with what he has done? So unless the person has committed a crime, Dershowitz is saying here that the impeachment process cannot be used. Let me quote him. I'm continuing to quote him. Now you have the Republicans making the case for the Democrats who want to impeach the president by offering bills of impeachment and not charging crimes, said Dershowitz. I'm going to write a new book called The Case Against Impeaching Rod Rosenstein. The same arguments apply. This is so short-sighted. Both sides do this. They use criminal law to go after their enemies, the use of impeachment to go after their enemies. When that happens, the American public is the biggest victim. This is what Dershowitz continues to say. When that happens, the American public is the biggest victim. Continuing to quote Dershowitz, impeachment is supposed to be there for serious crimes, treason, bribery, other high crimes and misdemeanors. If you don't like the way Rod Rosenstein is responding to your subpoena, charge him with contempt of court. Bring him to court, but do not use impeachment. That just helps the Democrats who are trying to impeach President Donald Trump. And he's saying here, rather than use the impeachment process, just simply charge him in court, but the impeachment process is just for crimes. You know, this man is supposed to be a constitutional scholar, and he makes comments like this. Let me say something about the why that's so wrong. Mr. Dershowitz, the impeachment process is a political process. And that means that it does not subject the person to legal jeopardy. If that is not true, let me read to you Article 1, Section 3, Clause 7. Listen carefully, Alan Dershowitz, because you don't know what you're talking about. Listen to this very carefully. Now, this is after you've gone through the impeachment process. The impeachment process is Article 1, Section 2, Clause 5. That's where you have the charge made that's in the House, then the trial in the Senate. Now, listen to this part here. There are 7 clauses in Article 1, Section 3. Article 1, Section 3, Clause 6 says that the Senate shall try impeachment. So in the House, you have the accusation. In the Senate, you have the trial. Now listen to Article 1, Section 3, Clause 7. Dershowitz, you listen very carefully. Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. But the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment according to law. You see, this idea that you have to have a crime, the impeachment process is not a criminal proceeding. It's a political proceeding. And that's why, because it is political, you're not subject to legal penalty. But it does not excuse the person from having a legal penalty if, in fact, it is, in fact, made actionable in the legal arena. But the legal arena, Dershowitz, is not the House or the Senate. These are political arenas. I don't want to use the word here on there. This is a family program. But I have to tell you something. This is really serious stuff here. And for a Harvard professor to be saying the things he's saying, and I'm going to read something else he said about the 14th Amendment, which also is not true. This man is an imposter. There's no other way to put it. When I get to the 14th Amendment, we are going to see that to be true. Because I'm going to read you what some other person said about Alan Dershowitz and some of the claims he made about the 14th Amendment. And what this man said about that is astounding. I'll read that later on. But it's astounding to me that a man that has taught law for 30 some odd years at Harvard University can make these claims that you have to have a crime. If you have to have a crime in order to bring about impeachment, then why is it then that in Article 1, Section 3, Clause 7, why would it say this? Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. It does not remove a person from holding an office on the state level. You can still run for the state senate. You can be a member of the House in that particular state or the Senate of that state. You're only going to be forbidden for holding an office under the civil officers of the United States. But but it does not disqualify you from holding an office within the state. Why is that true? Because of the federal system. You have two tiers of government here, recognized in the Constitution, the federal and the state. Now, the state may well set up local, it may decentralize the state power and have local government like we have in Flint, for example, or the capital, Lansing or Detroit, Saginaw. You know, they'll have local. It's not recognized in the Constitution. The states can do that. There are two levels of government recognized in the Constitution, the federal level and the state level. And for this man to say that you have to have a crime, and here it is in black and white, where the crime, let's say that you remove the president for treason, bribery, and other high crimes and misdemeanors. Listen carefully, because the process is political. They don't have the authority. I want to tell Alan Dershowitz where this is found, so he can go back and do his homework and read where it's found. I'll tell you where it's found. Let him go and read it in the Federalist Papers. Hope you'll go and read it, because this man, I just don't understand how you can teach this for 30 years and be so far off base. It's not a legal process. Let me tell you why why is not a legal process. The framers were trying to figure out how to create the impeachment process And where should it be housed?
We're coming up on 26 minutes, so we're going to be losing our WFOV. So welcome back when they come back at 30 minutes. Okay.
Okay, I'm glad that you let us know, John, ahead of time. So that's another thing we're changing this week as well. We are going to take a break in about a minute, and WFOV will be taking a break for 4 minutes at that time, and they'll come back after the break is over, and we'll pick it up with them after the 4-minute hiatus. We're going to continue, though, at allpointstv.com, and we're going to try to stay within the range of what we're talking about, so when they come back from their break, we won't be too far down the road, because this is very important information that we're going to be covering today. Okay, I think they are taking their break, John. Okay, we're going to continue here. The impeachment process is a political process, but not a legal process. And if Adam Dershowitz had read the Federalist Papers, he would understand what the thinking was and what they were trying to overcome because the question was, where should the impeachment process take place? Should it be in the judicial body? Think about that for a minute. Why wouldn't it be in the judicial body? Well, number one of the reasons was that there are 9 members on the Supreme Court, so the numbers would be such that you want to have a 2/3 vote of a larger body, so that would be one reason. The other reason, which you have in Article 1, Section 3, Clause 7. What if the political process, which is what it is in terms of impeachment, what if it goes to trial? Why would you have the Supreme Court sit in the impeachment, which is a political trial, and then if it comes down to being actionable in a court of law, that you want to carry it to the level of the legalities involved in it, why would you have the court come into it and do the same thing that it done through the impeachment, but this time the stakes have been picked up in terms of the legal implications of it, and so the same body will in fact charge the person legally after having charged them politically. They don't want to have that as the prevailing rate. So they put it in one body and then have, if it's going to trial, because you want to exercise that through the legal arena, then the impeachment process will be separated from the political, will be separated from the legal, and so you have the political going on in the legislative branch, which is not a judicial body, and then you have the judicial body playing its role in terms of the trial if it gets into the legal arena. That's one reason why you have the separation. The other reason why they did that was because they did not want to have the judicial body, I'm sorry, I should have said the legislative body, they did not want to have the legislative body carrying out judicial proceedings. You know why that would be true? Because of the separation of powers. It was placed in the judicial body, not for, it was placed in, I should say, it was placed in the legislative body, not for judicial reasons, but because it's political. It's not placed in the legal arena, so therefore you have it in the political body, the House and the Senate. But when you go to the legal part aspect of it, if it's a violation, and you want to make the legal claim against it, then you put that in the legal arena, and that would be in the court. So you have the political proceeding. We now want to welcome back the listeners from WFOV, and we're glad you're back. We didn't have the music played in that regard, but we're glad you're back, and we are not too far away. We try to stay within the context of where we were when you left, and we're glad you're back. We are not too far away from where we were 4 minutes ago. What I'm saying here is that the political arena is the House and the Senate. So since the impeachment process is a political process, it's played out in the political arena. But the legal process is not the political arena. That's a legal. There are legal ramifications. If you're going to charge somebody with treason, bribery, and other high crimes and misdemeanors, that's a legal offense. So you have the political aspect of it in the impeachment trial, but if you're going to take action legally after the impeachment is over, then it is stated in Article 1, Section 3, Clause 7, that if it goes into the legal arena, I'm going to read that again. Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office. So if you're doing the political charge in the House and Senate, it will not go any further than the political charge that will bring about removal. It's a political charge in a political body. So the removal of the person from the office is the greatest penalty that can be placed on that person. And you can exclude the person from holding any other office on the federal level. It does not include forbidding someone to hold office on the state level, because the federal government cannot encroach upon the prerogatives of the state. Hope that's clear. But here's the other part of it. If it goes into the legal arena, but the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment according to law. Now we can refer the person to the legal process, but not the legal process to the impeachment process. That's different. That's why it is also true, this is also true. This question about whether or not you can indict a sitting president, and the answer to that question is no. Because the separation of powers is that you have three co-equal branches of government. Therefore, in Article 1, you set up one of the co-equal branches of government, that's a legislative body. In Article 2, you set up another one of the three co-equal branches of government, and that is the executive body, and then the judicial body is set up in Article 3. Now, how can three co-equal branches of government intrude upon the other branches co-equal to, and then subsume that it can therefore bring about through the legal process the indictment against a president that is co-equal to? It can't do it. You have to impeach the president and then remove the president from office. And then after the president is removed from office, he no longer holds the office and being a co-equal partner on the federal level. Therefore, being out of office, the president can't be indicted. That is to say, he is subject under Article 1, Section 3, Clause 7 to indictment under the legal process after he has been removed under the impeachment process. There are two different processes. Dershowitz has gotten confused about the political process, and he thinks that is a legal process, which is not. And I don't know where he gets his information from, but my information comes from this document right here, called the Constitution of the United States. Now, if that's bad enough, that's pretty bad. But let me read something about another aspect of it. Let me put up on the screen. John, let's go to the 14th Amendment. Let's go there. Let's put that on the screen. The 14th Amendment.
I don't have the 14th Amendment here. No, I don't. We removed that. Remember, that was a couple weeks ago, so I don't have it.
That's right. We did remove that. Let me quote it then.
Let me see if I can find it, and I'll pull it up.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I did misdirect you there. I'm sorry about that. The 14th Amendment says, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. You got it on the screen now, John? I'm sorry about going ahead. I was going to go to Article 1, Section 9, but I want to go to the 14th Amendment because I want to stay on Alan Dershowitz for another minute to show this man does not have the scholarship that he claims. Let me know when you have it up there.
Yes, we do.
Okay. You see where it says here, all persons born or naturalized in the United States. See that? All persons born or naturalized in the United States. Isn't that what it says, John?
Yes, it does.
And subject to the jurisdiction thereof, right?
Right.
Are citizens of the United States.
Right.
All right, let me read let me read this about Alan Dershowitz. This is an article that came out. It says the title of the article is Harvard law professor Adam Dershowitz got it wrong on birthright citizenship. John, let me read this article, John, to show you what we're talking about with this man.
Yeah, he's like losing. I mean, you know, I'm not a person who believes in ageism. I mean, my grandmother was sharp as tack right till she died in '92. But I think he might be losing it because this is so apparent, and what he said was it's amazing, so off subject. I mean, yeah,
John, it's amazing. Let me read what they said about it. Well, you won't think I'm picking on Alan Dershowitz. It's any of the others that are saying the same thing he's saying. I'm not picking on Alan Dershowitz. What I'm doing is coming behind Alan Dershowitz to tell you that what he's stating is not true. But I'm not the only one. This article also does the same thing. Let me read this part of the article to you. If you want to go find it online, you can find it online. It's under the title Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz got it wrong on birthright citizenship. I'm reading from the article here. On Fox Business Network's Kennedy show on Wednesday. In other words, on the business network of Fox, the Fox News network has two different stations. One is Fox News, the other one is Fox Business. Now they got also Fox Nation. But on Fox Business Network, the Kennedy show on Wednesday, Harvard law professor Adam Dershowitz contended that if a child is born in the United States to people who are in the country illegally, and that child then resides in the U.S. after they are born, that child has automatic citizenship. He also said, I'm still reading from the article here, he also said that if a child is born to tourists in the United States, and that child does not reside in the U.S. after they're born, that child may not be a citizen. Unfortunately for him, talking about unfortunately for Alan Dershowitz, that's not what the framers of the 14th Amendment said it means. Dershowitz, reading from the article, this is not me speaking, this is the article that's making these comments, these conclusions. Dershowitz is getting caught up in the argument of limits, which refers to where a person is born, and he is missing the key part and meaning of the clause. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Reading from the article again. Dershowitz believes in this case that the term, quote, jurisdiction, unquote, simply means where the person was born. That's not correct. I'm reading the article here. I'm not saying this. The article is saying it. That's not correct. And he should know that. This article is saying that Alan Dershowitz should know that. And I agree with the article. He should know that. But the mere fact he doesn't know it is very profound in terms of Alan Dershowitz's expertise, quote unquote, in the area of the Constitution. Because you cannot be an expert in the Constitution and make this mistake. It cannot be done. No person would say what Dershowitz believes, and this is what Dershowitz believes. Here's what Dershowitz believes about the language. He thinks it says this: all persons born or naturalized in the United States are citizens of the United States and of the states wherein they reside. And that is not what it says. What it says, and you see it on the screen there, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the states wherein they reside. There is a conjunctive clause in between the two parts, the two declaratory parts of the statement. all persons born or naturalized in the United States, Dutch would have it say, are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. And that is not what it says in total. There's a conjunctive phrase in between all persons born naturalized in the United States and the other part of it are citizens of the United States. There's a conjunctive phrase in between those two segments of the front of the statement and the ending of the statement. All persons born or naturalized in the United States both have to be, listen carefully to this part here, both those requirements. All persons born and naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the states wherein they reside. I'll talk about that more next week when I get into natural born, but I want to be clear right here about the fact that it says all persons born and naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Now, it doesn't even say here, subject to the laws thereof. Because if you're here, and they tell you that when you go out of the country, and they'll tell you this. They'll say that if you in fact go to another country and you violate their laws there, they're saying that there's nothing they can do because you are under the laws of that country. Now, under the laws of the country is very different than being under the jurisdiction of that country. Why is that true? Because you're still a citizen of the country that you came from. So that being under, it doesn't say here. See, the Constitution is these are not the dummies that we have right now, like Ocasio-Cortez, who doesn't know anything.
How do you like the term they call her, the nickname they give her, occasional cortex?
John, the context that she's using is not this context right here. I don't know where she's getting her information from.
She went to a good college, or colleges, and she.
But did she go to class?
Yeah, I think she snoozed or maybe snoozed.
Danced her way through the school. That video that she made. This woman doesn't know anything.
She should have stuck with dance.
And you know what? The mere fact she's at the microphone, and those more seasoned than she is, and they're in the background, and she's at the microphone, shows that they know less than she does. Otherwise, they'd be at the microphone talking. They let her do the talk. And this woman that's now talking about a Green New Deal. You know, you can't be much more ignorant than that, because that shows that she doesn't understand how much trouble this country is in because of the New Deal. And it probably has not read Bertram's book called New Deal or Raw Deal, because the New Deal was a raw deal for the United States, and a lot of the burden that we have right now in this country is because of the New Deal. A lot of the trouble that this country is facing right now is because of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the man that broke the two-term tradition that we'd had in this country from 1796, when George Washington stepped down. That president stayed in place all the way up until 1940, because Roosevelt was elected in 1932. He elected again in 1936, and then he broke the precedent of the two-term in 1940, ran for a third term, and then this dictator ran again for a fourth term, died in office in 45, but he ran in 1944 for a fourth term. And you can see this man had no respect for this country, because everyone up until that point, except his fifth cousin, Theodore Roosevelt, who was the 26th president of the United States, served almost all of McKinley's term. McKinley was the third president to be assassinated, and Theodore Roosevelt ran on McKinley's ticket as vice president. McKinley was assassinated at the beginning of his term, and so Theodore Roosevelt served almost all of McKinley's term. And so he, first of all, respected the two-term tradition because he served almost all of McKinley's term. And therefore, he said that respecting the precedent, he would, in fact, stand down because all of McKinley's term, practically speaking, and then another term he ran for in 1904, he served that term, so 8 years, and he stood down. But he did not like Taft, who was the 27th president, and Taft came in from 1904 to 1908. I'm sorry, 1908 to 1912. Taft came in and was 27th president. And so, given that he didn't like the way in which Taft was governing, Theodore Roosevelt decided to run for a third term, not on the Republican ticket, but on the progressive ticket. And this was a progressive ticket, by the way. That's hidden by them saying that he was on the Bull Moose ticket. But he ran into, this was the Progressive Party. That this was the first time we had a progressive party, a progressive standing up. In fact, Theodore Roosevelt is the first progressive president we had. Of course, he was a Republican, so don't make it an ideological thing in terms of one party is progressive, another party is not progressive. You've had progressives in both parties. And if you understood this last election, you would see that also, because I have to tell you something, a little secret here. The Democrats did not win the House in 2018. I know you're saying, well, the Republicans had a majority and they don't have a majority now, and you're right about that. They don't have a majority now. But why don't they have the majority? It's because the Republican Party, the progressives in the Republican Party, stood down. 39 of them stood down. 26 of them stood down and didn't run for another position. 13 stood down and ran for other positions. 39 members of the House of Representatives that were Republicans did not run for re-election in the House of Representatives. The Republican Party handed it to them. Why did they do that? Because they could not oppose Donald Trump and not let the scam out that these two parties are working cooperatively with each other. I'll tell you another thing, a little side point also. You know, this whole thing about what they're doing right now with Michael Cohen. I don't know if you saw this last week, or maybe you didn't pay a lot of attention to it, or what the undertones of it. Michael Cohen exonerated Donald Trump last week. Although they came out and said, after the hearing was over, they said that the information of collusion is astronomical. They were saying something different from what your lying eyes saw. Michael Cohen exonerated, not that that was his intent, but they asked him specific questions. Although he had gone up there to hurt Donald Trump, they asked him the question about him supposedly going to Prague. Prague was supposed to be where Michael Cohen had gone to Czechoslovakia and met with the Russians in Czechoslovakia, and that's where the Steele dossier said information had been passed to him, and that's where the cooperation was going on. Steele said that he had gone there, that was in fact where the information was, and that's where the collusion occurred. Last week, Michael Cohen said that he had never been in Prague. They had never been in Czechoslovakia. So guess what's happening this week? Because they don't think you saw the exoneration. Because they do not believe that you were able to figure out how this was an exoneration. Not intended. They thought he was going to give them the answers that they were seeking. But he couldn't say, he didn't say some very some things that would have been very much of an indictment of this president. He was exonerating the president, not intentionally exonerating him, but he had to say that he had not been there. Otherwise, the records would come up, and he's sworn to tell the truth. So when they asked him the question about whether he had been in Prague, they were believing their own press, and they thought he would say yes. But if he said yes, he is involved in perjury, and we can actually prove that, because then as a ticket he had to have purchased. He had to have been at a hotel when he was there. He had to have some paper trail that would have shown he was there. So he said he had never been there. That's humongous. So what are they doing this week? Guess what? They're bringing him back to Washington, and this time testifying behind closed doors. Why? Because behind closed doors, where you cannot listen to it, they can say anything behind closed doors that you said. But you listened in last week, and you saw with your own eyes, and you saw with your own eyes, and you heard with your own ears that this man said, and he also said that Donald Trump never told him to lie about Carly Daniels. He said that he assumed that the president would want him to do X, Y, and Z, but never ordered him to do so. And so this was a total exoneration. And they cannot let that stay on the record. So what they're doing now is bringing him back to testify before the Senate, but not before the public, but behind closed doors. Because this is not about finding the facts. This is about impeaching the president and trying to act as if the president is involved in the actions necessary in the impeachment process in which you can remove a president. And that's why they keep on talking about treason. Can you imagine that? They are saying that a president of the United States who ran upon making America great again, not running upon fundamentally transforming America as Obama did. Obama ran upon and said 5 days before he was to take office, fundamental change has come to America. And did you listen to CPAC this past week where Dennis Prager said that imagine somebody getting married, and they would say that they love their wife, but they want to fundamentally transform their wife. He's making the point of that if you love something, you're not trying to fundamentally change it. So look at the flip of the script here. The person trying to fundamentally change America, loves America? But the person that says that make America great again, this person is guilty of treason of the country. So we're bringing Cohen back because they can't let Cohen's claims stand and then go through what they plan to do. And what they plan to do, they want to remove this man from office. Why? Because you were enlightened in 2016. You in fact were being told who to vote for in 2016, and you didn't do it. Those polls cannot be that wrong about the outcome of that election if they were telling us the truth about the popularity of the two candidates. You saw the popularity by the fact that nobody was attending Hillary Clinton's rallies, and look at how this man had crowds that were not only inside the arenas but also on the outside, had as many on the outside as they had on the inside of the arena. And they had to cover that up because what they were doing was showing you the propaganda machine. And what they're doing now is covering up the propaganda machine. Because if, in fact, Russia did not cause this, then the deep state, which now very much includes the media, was caught at running its propaganda on the American people, and nothing they were saying was true, and nothing they're saying is true right now. So now Cohen is going before the Congress to testify behind closed doors. That's how they're running this scam. And they're running a scam. I predicted last week that Mueller would not come out this week with that report. He dare not come out with it. Because as soon as that report is issued, you're going to have this this real investigation going on, and it can't go on while Mueller's doing his investigation. They can't close it down because then the American people were saying, well, he was on to something. So you got to let Mueller finish. But Mueller's not going to finish until he has a cover for what will happen after that finishing occurs, and that's something that he has to worry about. I'm making the point here as I close out on this conversation is that we have some real miscreants that are running this country both politically and intellectually. And the two of them, that is, say, the tiller, the politicians, and the intellectuals are both betraying the law of the land in this country, the Constitution of the United States. Alan Dersh is not. I mean, let's be honest here. He's not stating what's in the Constitution, so that's going on. And then we have the politicians that are also betraying the Constitution. Both of them are doing it, and I cannot believe that this is by accident. The idea that you cannot read the 14th Amendment and understand that you have to be subject to the jurisdiction thereof to be a citizen of this country. And this man is trying to act like it says all persons born and naturalized in the United States are citizens of the United States, and that's not what it says. Next week, I'm going to go into another aspect of the Constitution, but keep these things in mind because I'm going to build upon this and show you that they have dismissed this document and they're doing it right in front of our eyes. Okay, I'm going to get out of here. But I want you to follow your dream, because if you don't follow your dream, you'll never know what's on the other side of the rainbow.